What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Unlock Your Potential. I'm your host, Francesco Bartolillo, and I'm super excited about today's guest. She is an incredible entrepreneur. She started her business, Honey Skin, back in August of 2020. Since then, the business has grown tremendously. They opened their first storefront in August of 2023, and that same year, they were nominated for a Business Excellence Award. I'm talking about the amazing Tori Fisher. Tori, thanks for being on the show.
Wow, thank you.
Not bad, right?
Yeah, you hyped me up. You did. It was good.
Love it. So I want to get into your entrepreneurial journey, challenges, things you faced, all that. But before we do, I know you went to school to be an X-ray technician. Just talk a bit about that process. Obviously, you went to school for it. Did you actually work as an X-ray tech? Like, what was that leading up to your transition to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so growing up, I always wanted to be in the beauty industry. That was always my passion. And my dad said, no, thank you. You will go do something in the medical field. So I said, okay. So I am super happy I have that background. I feel like it's helped a lot in what I do now. But yeah, I went to school for X-ray in 2016, graduated in 2018, and worked doing that for 2 years until 2020 when I started Honey Skin.
And so obviously it's been a passion for you from when you were young, but what prompted the actual change? Because like you said, you were working in the X-ray technician field, you had gone to school for it, presumably spent money to go do that. What prompted that change?
Yeah, so when I had my daughter, she was born in February 2020, and I just had time on mat leave, kind of sitting around. I don't like sitting around, so that's what happened. But yeah, I started looking into all the different courses and schooling you could do to kind of transition. And it was never my plan to have this be my full-time thing. I just thought maybe I could get out of the hospital a little bit, improve the work-life balance, be home with my daughter more. So I did that. And then, yeah, it just got so busy. I never ended up going back.
Nice. And so you were just operating out of your house or out of your basement?
Yeah. So I literally started, I took the course, which was however much. And then I had $500 to buy supplies, a table, a spa table, whatever. We had a tiny house and it was in my laundry room.
Nice.
We put up a curtain to cover up the washer, dryer. And all my clients who have been with me since then, they're like, yeah, we're OGs. We saw the laundry room. So yeah, I literally started in my laundry room.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so starting all this while just having a kid, also peak COVID.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
That must have been extremely difficult. Just talk about those challenges of raising a child, dealing with COVID, dealing with masks, starting a business when most businesses were actually trying to survive or failing. What was that process like?
Yeah, it was a lot. I honestly, ignorance is bliss. I think I didn't really think that far into it. I almost saw an opportunity because all of these young people who love beauty were getting what was it called? The checks. Oh yeah. Not the severance pay, the checks from the government, basically the kind of the EI except for what was
COVID.
That called?
What was it called there?
CERB.
CERB.
They were all getting they all had this disposable income that they really never had before. So I was thinking everyone's sitting around. For some reason, spas are still allowed to run, which is wild because we never had
essential.
To shut down.
Were they considered essential services?
They weren't essential, but we never had to shut down.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. So I guess I just saw the opportunity there and went for it.
And were there obviously you were operating out of your home, so it was a little bit different, but was there kind of rules you had to follow, regulations?
Yeah, there was you had to submit a COVID plan. So sanitizing everything anyone touched, which we do anyways. People had to wear a mask until they were on the table, then take it off, put it back on. I obviously wore a mask the whole time. No waiting room because it was in my house. So one person at a time.
And so was it table here, playpen for the kid here, or how did that work?
No, she was upstairs, and yeah, you would hear her pitter-pattering around or cry once in a while, but I tried to keep it really separate and as professional as I could.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so started in your basement. I presume did you go through the whole process of creating a business right from the start, business number, setting up a business account, that sort of thing? Or was it oh, let me just dabble in this on the side and then later down the road went full-fledged? Or what was your kind of that process?
It was supposed to be just I hate this term, but side hustle. So I didn't have anything in order. I thought maybe I could make like $200 a week, I think was my goal, just to be out of the hospital a little bit. So I had nothing in place. And then it was a bit overwhelming for sure. You get super busy and start thinking about taxes and a license and all of these things. So
yeah. And then you brought on a second team member, if I'm not mistaken.
So first I moved out of my house. So we sold that house and we started building a house. We were living with my parents in the meantime. So my friend Katie, who owns Polished Chaos Brows, I think Erin came in before, she knows. She was nice enough to rent me a room in her space. So I started renting there and decided to try and be full-time and do like 25 clients a week and see if I could stay busy. And I did, and I still had a wait list. Wow. So that was when I decided to bring someone on.
Okay, so you brought somebody on because you were no longer to kind of fulfill the demand, so to speak, of this. Yeah. And in this meantime, you were renting a space from a completely different business.
Yeah.
Okay.
So more of a professional setting, like a storefront, even though it wasn't my storefront. But.
And did you notice that by transitioning from the home setup to the storefront, people not appreciated that more, but were more receptive to that? Or was there not much of a change? Like,
I thought there would be, but I think I put out a poll once asking, like, what do you prefer? And people basically said, like, we don't care as long as we're coming to see you. So that's something I've taken with me this whole time is like, it really doesn't matter where you are or how nice the room setup is. It's so much about customer service and connecting with your clients more so than the atmosphere or anything else. Although I think those things still matter, just not as much.
I mean, following you on social media and following your journey, I can tell you are very particular about how your objects are. I remember, I think it might have been your sister making a post about it, saying how you basically made her change things 100 times.
Yes.
But it's interesting to hear that because, you know, so often we hear about businesses that want to start their business and then they feel like, oh, I need this perfect setup. I need an office. And it's like, I know for, you know, people in maybe in the consulting world or marketing world, even it's like, well, if you can do this out of your house for no cost, is there necessarily the need to go and take these extra expenses on?
And I find too, if you're taking on these expenses and say taking out business loans or going into debt, now you have to almost be pushy with your customers and clients to bring in that business and make it worth it, I guess. So I would say don't do that if you don't have to. Just, work within your means.
So 2020 up until 2023, you're at home and then you're in this rental space with a team of 2. And then when did your team start to grow? When did you outgrow that space? Because clearly there had to be a reason for you to now open your storefront, especially because you recognized not necessarily the not having a need for it, but you recognize, okay, something's got to change. I need a storefront. What prompted that? Like, why bring on that extra stress and, I guess debt in some ways, obligations to create the storefront?
Yeah. So it was kind of a few different things. So Katie, who I was renting from, decided she didn't want to be in that space anymore and she was going to downsize. So I kind of had to make a choice of, am I going to go back to my house and let everyone go and just be on my own, which would have been easier for sure.
Yeah. And how many people did you have working with you at this time?
I had 2 when I was thinking this through.
2 plus you. So 3 total.
3 total. Or am I going to continue to expand and like just really go for it here? So I decided, let's just give it a shot. And worst case scenario, then we'll go back to plan A and go to the house. So I hired 2 more. I hired 2 lash girls to try and bring on some other services. And they stayed pretty busy as well. And that was probably June 2023. Okay. And then we literally didn't find our space officially until July 1st. 2023 and opened August 1st.
Crazy.
2023, yeah.
I remember you crediting, I believe it was your dad for all the hard work to make it happen.
Yeah, we were there till midnight every night. It was wild.
But there has to be some part of you that looks back and says that, like, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Like,
for sure.
It's something it's a story of your business. It's kind of that typical, that struggle that small business owners have to go through in order to succeed. Like, it's kind of an incredible story, starting from laundry room in your basement to now owning a storefront with your current team is 5 plus you?
5 employees and 1 contractor, so 7 total. Okay. Yeah.
And so go into the actual business itself a bit. Like what are the services you offer? Because originally, I mean, the skincare world is massive. Just talk a bit about some of the services you guys do offer.
So we started with the skincare services, and that is our main thing. That's what I'm passionate about. And then I totally believe in like the jack of all trades, master of none saying. So everyone I hire has their own specific niche that they work in and that they master, and that's all they do. So I've got me as a skin tech, and then my 2 other skin techs, a lash tech, we've got permanent jewelry, a massage therapist, and then a cosmetic injector for Botox.
Wow. And so all these people just kind of heard of your business, or did you go recruiting and say, I want to expand what my business offers, or how did that work?
Yeah, I put out for all of my employees, they were hired through applications, just normal resumes. And then our cosmetic injector, he came and saw me for a facial, and we just connected. So I reached out to him just on a whim, like, hey, would you want to come and work a couple times a month and offer this service? And yeah, he was into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so let's go into the world of skincare. But like, obviously you have a passion for it, but why should anybody, necessarily listening actually consider doing it? What are some of the benefits of it? Why the need for it? Clearly you guys are busy. But what is drawing people in other than obviously the incredible experience they have? Because I imagine there's got to be some health benefits, so to speak, for your skin and for your overall health.
There are, for sure. But I think the experience is the main thing, because like you said, the skincare world is massive. There's 100 people doing the same thing. But I think for people, and women especially, who are our main clientele, it's so important to once a month or once every couple months come and have quiet time and self-care, and just come and do something for yourself. And then obviously it helps with anti-aging, breakouts, and keeps us looking fresh.
So there's almost a mental health aspect to it.
100%.
It's that idea of you come in, you feel good, you know that you're doing something good for your skin, but you're also just getting to enjoy your own time away from all the stresses of life.
Totally, and just feel like you're being cared for.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so your business opens, your storefront opens in 2023. You had your second child close to that time, no?
He was April 2022.
Okay. So
I had him, and then I hired my second skin tech 6 weeks later.
Okay. So you have 2 kids, a 4-month-old when you opened the second, or the storefront, right? 2022. Oh no, sorry.
A year and 4 months.
Year and 4 months.
Yeah.
Good math, friend.
No, you're doing good.
So a year and 4 months, you have 2 children. Your partner works full time. This, like, it seems overwhelming. It seems like a lot.
It is.
What did you do to cope with this? Like, how did you manage? Like, did parents help out? Is it, relying on daycares and nannies? Like, what enables you to run a business with 2 children, a partner who also has a full-time job? Like, it's a lot.
It's a lot. I wish I had a solid answer. My parents are in town, so they help a lot, but we have to be so organized. We don't have daycare. So Sheldon works 7 to 3. He comes home. And then I had to work at 3:30 and work until 9:30. So it's wild right now, but
so it's making that sacrifice now.
It's a sacrifice for sure. But I mean, I get to be with my kids all day, choose my own schedule. If we want to go on a trip or something, I can make that happen. So there's benefits, but it'll get easier once they're in school for sure.
It makes sense. And so I imagine hiring the team helps too, right? Because now you're not the only person who can provide the skincare services.
Yeah, it does in some ways, but also so much more responsibility. Like, I don't hire anything out, which is maybe not that smart, but
meaning,
I do.
Like, from your personal client base, you don't give them to...
I do, but sorry, as far as like bookkeeping,
payroll, you're saying like, I see what you're saying. You do everything.
Housekeeping, it's all me. So it is and it isn't. And I haven't stepped away. Like, everyone says, oh, are you hiring so that you can one day not work? That's not my goal. I think that's, for me, not the best business plan.
Yeah. And let's dive into that bit, because for a lot of people, the goal is to start something. That way you can eventually step away to either start something else or just to take time away. But for you, that's not the goal.
No, I mean, sure, when I'm 50, retirement age, I would like to not work anymore. But right now, I think it's important for me to be around. And yeah, I started the business, and that's what most people are coming for. So
do you think that the business, is the hope that the business eventually hits a point where you do need to bring people in, hire people to do some of that stuff, like the bookkeeping, like the marketing? Because obviously, I mean, with every business model, every goal is different. So you might say, no, this is the size I want, this is how I want to do it, I'm happy. Or is there a goal to get bigger, maybe expand, bigger location, more staff that offer different services? Like, is there a plan in store? Or is it just kind of, okay, let's roll with the punches and see what happens?
It's a bit of both. I always roll with the punches, I guess. But yeah, I hope to hire more. We're bringing in a few more services in April. I can't say yet, but we will be expanding. As far as the bookkeeping and things go, I'm just so OCD. I'm so particular. I don't trust people, which is so crazy. But yeah, maybe one day I can let go of some control and hire those things out.
I imagine that probably is a contributing factor, though, to your success. The OCD, the control. Like, of course, we know research shows that there's elements of leadership that require you to, provide autonomy to your workers and all that sort of thing, which obviously is something we can all learn to do better. But there has to be an element of that, because you care about it so much, because you love it. That's why you want to hold on to it. Sure. And that has to be a driving factor to why you've had the success that you've had.
Yeah. I think so. And even with the social media, like, I have hired that out before and they did a great job, but I enjoy doing that stuff. And I feel like that's what makes like the business personable and more me, is having me doing that kind of thing. So we'll see.
And do you think having more staff has now made you a better leader in the business? Because I imagine as you take on other roles and as you lead people, there's certain things that you've had to learn along the way. Or like, did it come easy for you?
No, I've learned a lot. Yeah. I'm still learning a lot on that, but I think so far so good. Like, I have a really good retention rate of all my staff. Everyone has been there for, I only started hiring 2 years ago, and 1+ years everyone's been there. I haven't had anyone quit, so
it's amazing.
It's a good thing.
So what would you say is their biggest 1 or 2 challenges of leading people? Like, what have you found to be the toughest thing, whether that's the people themselves or you? Like, what have you noticed is something that you've had to work on or has kind of presented you with some challenges?
I find it really hard to find the balance between being a boss and a friend, because I want to be everyone's friend. I don't like when people are upset with each other or me. So yeah, I struggle with that, and I'm working on that still. Does
it make it even more difficult having it such a small team? Like, because I imagine you guys are pretty close. You spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
Your sister
she's there now too.
Yeah. So it's like it's already kind of an established core.
It is, for sure. So anytime we're gonna hire, I run it by everyone on the team. Like, yeah, do you guys know this person? Is anyone having any issues, or like, how do we feel? And I think that is important to make them know that they're important to the team and everyone's opinion matters, because I don't want to lose anyone that I have and have been with me for this long.
I think that's a great way to do it. I know obviously that's probably challenging sometimes, because then, you might have a bunch of different opinions, but I also think that's probably why your people stay with you, right? They stay because they feel important. They feel like they have a say in the business. They feel like they're part of it. And like everybody I've talked to in terms of business owners or people who lead groups, if they feel like they're part of it and they have a say, they're more invested in the success of the business, regardless of if they're an actual owner or not.
I agree. Yeah. And without your staff, like, you don't have a business. I couldn't run my business without them. So yeah, definitely they're important.
That's incredible. So let's rewind it back just a touch to opening the storefront. What were some of the big challenges you found with that? Because I know, like we said, some businesses eventually outgrow the home space, or they need to find a different space because their team's getting bigger, whatever it is. What were some of those challenges that you found when opening a storefront, and somebody listening who's thinking about doing that might help them in their process of doing that?
Just knowing if it's going to be worth it. And obviously you have to increase your revenue. Like, as much as I don't want my business to be about money, I want it to be about self-care and making people feel good. Like, at the end of the day, now you have big bills to pay, you have employees to pay. So yeah, budgeting is number one. Like, you have to know all of your expenses. You have to know what's coming in, what's going out. If you don't know that, it's not going to work out for you.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble, yeah.
And so does that include, like, I imagine at some point had to be a cost of service increase and that sort of thing? Is that something you accounted for prior to opening this, saying, okay, I'm going to have to increase my prices, and my clients, I need to make them aware of that? Or was it just something that kind of naturally happened and people sort of expected it? Or what did that look like?
We didn't increase our prices too much. Like, I think a few dollars on most services. I don't like to increase prices if I don't have to. Like, when I see people doing what we're doing for a lot more expensive and I know the cost that goes into it, I'm not interested in that. I want it to be affordable for people. While obviously still being able to pay our bills. But what was the question?
No, it was just the idea of like, so for you guys, you didn't actually choose to really, you didn't find a necessary, like, it wasn't necessary for you to increase.
No, it was more, I guess, expanding the staff and the volume of people we were getting through the door, because at our previous location, we only had 2 rooms. So going from 2 rooms to 5, we just,
So that's how so instead of having to increase prices to accommodate for the increased cost, you just said, all right, we're just going to do more volume, bring more people in, have more hours of operation, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which and
then I prayed that would work out and people would come through the door. So
it sounded like you had already a wait line as is. So I mean, just creating more opportunity for people, it's a good business model, because also people, I think, would respect that. Like, if I'm going to somebody that I've been to for a while, and all of a sudden, let's use a hairdresser, for example. Go to a hairdresser, they cut hair out of their home, and all of a sudden now they're going to a salon or a barber shop, and I go from paying $25 to $35. It's, for some people, it's a steep step, and it can actually kind of
deter.
Exactly.
And especially because I have had my clients since I was in my laundry room in 2020, and they're the people who have got me to where I am. So I always feel like it's doing them a disservice to pump up my prices just because we can. So I try not to do that.
Makes sense. And so there's also this branding aspect that comes to it. Like, Honey Skin has created a brand for itself. I saw you guys released some like loungewear. Is that right? That loungewear. And like it's kind of creating a brand. So talk a bit about that, sort of that brand, I guess, creation and loyalty. And really, is there a goal with the brand as well? Like, do you want to continue to do that sort of thing of have some loungewear or have your own products one day? Because I know you sell other skincare products. Like, is that on the agenda? Is that something you've even thought about, or is that just way down the line?
I have thought about it, but that's a whole other degree and science and everything. So I think I'll leave the skincare to the scientists, but the clothing and stuff we can do, and it's just kind of for fun. I let Lauren take the reins on that. That was all her for the loungewear.
And so that was less about making money, and it was more just about, again, that brand, right? You wanted to have something that people could say.
Free advertising.
Yeah. See, marketing. You do the marketing as well. You do it all. I love it. That's awesome. So a couple of things that I want to ask. First and foremost, obviously you made the transition from, doing it as we called it, a side hustle, to full time. What is your advice to somebody who's looking to do that? Somebody maybe they're in a space where, they're teetering on the edge. They have a full-time job, but they have a passion that they want to pursue. What is your advice to that person in order to give them the best chance to be successful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just go for it. I think if you're passionate about something, just be organized, have a plan in mind, try not to go into crazy debt if you don't have to. And just do your research and do whatever you're doing, whatever your niche is, do it really well. Don't be a jack of all trades.
So you're really big on this niche thing. You said
I am. Yeah.
Talk about it. Why is the niche so important? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about this. One of the people that I follow a lot, his name's Ed Milet, incredible businessman, billionaire, and he always talks about this as well. It's like, know your niche, find your niche. Talk a bit about, from your perspective, why is it so important to have a niche? Why is it so important to specialize in something?
I just think for myself anyways, and the way my brain works, I still feel like I have so much to learn. I could sit and study skin all day and different services and products. In my mind, there's no way I could go now learn how to do lashes or something as well and do them both really, really well. It just wouldn't work for me.
So it's really specific, like, because for me, as somebody who, being very oblivious to that world, so to speak, you would think lashes, skincare would be
all goes together.
Yeah.
And maybe for some people it does, and I know people who do it all and they're good at it all. But for me, I prefer to master something, and I get obsessed. Clearly, I'm obsessed with skin. So I could just obsess over it all day, and that's that.
Nice. That's awesome. So for me, more of a question for me, and this one, my interest at least, I'm a marketer by trade. And when it came to marketing your business from the start, where did you start that journey? Because obviously you're at home. Was it just a social media page? Were you paid ads? Like what was your start of your marketing journey for your business before you had all the positive word of mouth and the natural kind of advertising that goes on now?
Yeah, it was all Instagram. And again, I just saw an opportunity during COVID because everyone was on Instagram all the time. We had nothing else to do. So all Instagram. I have a lot of really great friends and family who came, shouted me out. I brought in young people for free and said, like, let's do this service. Shout me out, please. Send people my way. So that was my strategy. Nice. I've never done a paid advertisement. Those aren't good to do on Instagram. I heard you probably know this because it just brings the bots.
Yeah, there's a lot of like controversy around it. I mean, it's funny because I've done a couple myself and I've seen positive results from it.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
However, it's kind of one of those things where it's so unique because it's no matter where you look, you're going to find different answers. Right. For me, I found that in my personal experience with it, you're paying less than you'd pay for a traditional type of marketing advertisement like a billboard or a radio or that sort of thing. And your reach is significantly increased. Mm-hmm. However, the percent of that reach that is actually useful to you is small. Right. Yeah. So if you can spend X amount of dollars to get a huge reach, that's great because then, it gives you that small percent, but that small percent still a large number of people. For example, if your reach is 10,000 and you're only getting, 1 or 2%, that's still a really good number. Right. But if you're only paying, the smaller amount for the increased reach of 3,000 people, not worth it. Not from my experience. Again, it's not easy though, because a lot of people say, well, I don't want to fork out $500,000-$600,000 for advertising, which I can understand. So I think that depends on your business model. Like for example, for me, if I evaluate a client at a 4-month contract at, let's just make up a random number. Let's pretend it's $5,000. If I'm willing to pay $2,000 to advertise, but all I need is one client out of that to make my money back, then for me, I would deem it as worth it. Right, yeah. But if your service is something where you only get 2 or 3 clients and that's a couple $100 and you're spending $1,000, the simple math is there, right? So I think it can be useful depending on the business model, but I think it takes time and it's a little bit more risk. Whereas as you've done it and you've clearly seen it work is just that natural organic growth and also that word of mouth, because I think that is the most powerful.
100%. I agree. Yeah.
Like for me, I listen to podcasts again. I have my own experience, all these things. If somebody uses a product and people trust that person and they say it's good, you're going to go do it. I mean, I know from my experience with your business, like I knew you just through Prince George and that sort of thing. And then a couple people I knew had gone to you and they really loved it. So that was why I had bought that as a gift for Aaron. It was because of the word of mouth. Like obviously knowing you and seeing your social media helped because it's front of mind and that sort of thing. But it was really people saying, oh yeah, it's a really good product and a service and that's why we do it. Yeah. So I think it's such a brilliant way of doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I think like client care too is number one, because that's all it takes is one person to go tell someone else, or all it takes is one person to have a bad experience and go tell 10 people and now you've lost however many.
Definitely.
So
have you ran into that at all? Have you had to deal with, obviously there's easy and hard customers, but have you had to deal with some difficult ones?
We have, mostly once I hired on. And I don't know if that's because, I don't know, if someone has a problem with me, I feel like they're less likely to complain to me. But if someone, because I'm me, but if you have a problem with someone else, then you're more likely to complain to me. And I think I've only ever had in 3.5 years 2 negative
so those are good numbers.
Yeah, it's good. And I do find that. I find it difficult because I love my staff and I know how great they are. So when I get negative feedback, sometimes I can be a little defensive of them. But yeah, we always mitigate the situation, bring them back in and make sure they leave happy. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is that kind of, how do you put out that fire? Is it to offer free service? Is it to offer money back? Like what is the goal of that?
Yeah, it depends. Say if it's like a product that didn't work for them, we'll do an exchange on the product, especially if we recommended it and it didn't work, which happens very rarely, but it does happen. And then services, we'll bring them back in and make sure they get something that they're happy with.
Yeah, it makes sense. And like, because I know I've talked to, again, listening to different businesses and things they do, some businesses have a policy of if somebody's unhappy with our service, this is who we are, this is how we do it. So our goal is to make them happy by reimbursing, giving their money back, whatever it is, and then we don't want them again. Whereas others say, no, we want to prove to you that our business is good, what we offer, our service is great, give us another chance. Yeah. Is that the approach you guys would take over this isn't for you and we don't necessarily care?
Depends on the person. Obviously, if they're like berating my staff or something, we are fine without your business. But that's only happened once where I've let someone go as a client. Otherwise, yes, of course, we want you back. We want only positive feedback. And even if they did have a not so great experience, then they're not going to their friends and saying that. They're saying like, this experience wasn't great, but then they brought me back in and we figured out something that works for me.
Makes sense. And especially in a place like Prince George where you operate, it's not a tiny city, but it is a smaller city.
It's small,
you want to make sure that word of mouth, again, is as positive as possible because, as we know, it can spread like wildfire if it's not. And so that makes sense. And so has your business expanded outside of Prince George? Like, do you have clients that are coming outside of the city just to come see you, or people who've reached out, or has it been pretty maintained to kind of the Prince George demographic and that's what your focus is anyways?
It's our focus for sure, but I do have people who have moved away and they still come back. I have a girl who comes from Williams Lake every month to get her facial. A few people, Vanderhoof, we have a few, but mainly Prince George.
So servicing that northern BC.
We ship out a lot of products elsewhere.
Okay, so the product side of thing is still BC or Western Canada? Or?
I'm trying to think. I think we're all BC right now, but we can ship everywhere. One in Alberta. Yeah.
So why would somebody go through you to get these products versus going directly to the company itself? Is there a perk to it? Is there things that they can't necessarily get access to because you are, the retailer of that product, or what would be the reason for that? So
we sell medical grade skincare. So you have to buy it through like a licensed retailer. So you could get it online through another retailer probably. But we do free skin consults. So people will do that with us. And then we do a 3-product discount if you're buying 3 or more. So there's some perks to going through us. And I think in this town, or people who are ordering from elsewhere obviously want to support us and choose to go through us.
So that skin consult kind of tells you what would be best for your skin specifically, and then it just makes sense to now order through the people who know my skin. Yeah,
totally. And we sell a couple different brands, so sometimes we'll combine different products for your skin depending on what you need. So makes it easier.
Nice. That's awesome. Sweet. So I have a tradition on the podcast to wrap it up. It's a question. You can answer it in as few or as many words as you like. But basically what it is I want to know 3 things in your life to this point that you feel have helped you unlock your potential. And that can be personal, that can be business, it can be in regard to your family, it can be people that have helped you, it can be a thing that you've read, like anyone that you feel has helped you unlock your potential and reach where you are.
Oh my gosh, that's a big question. 3?
3.
Okay. First, my kids for sure, because I honestly wouldn't be doing this at all if I hadn't have had my daughter and had the time to think about what my passion is and what I want my life to look like. And then secondly, I'll say my parents. They've supported me doing anything that I want to do, even though I chose beauty over medical fields. But they're still here. Yeah. Third? I guess our town. It's so supportive for small businesses. Everything. There's so many resources, the people, advertising. There's tons in this city for small businesses. So that helped.
That's awesome.
Is that good?
That was great. And honestly, I love how it's funny because when you say kids, sometimes people would be like, oh, doesn't that kind of pull you back? Because I think that's a lot of fear for a lot of people. So the fact that you brought up your kids, I think is great, because this, in some ways, challenge of having kids while doing this unlocked your potential to actually go and chase your dream. So
for sure. Yeah.
Honestly, I love all three.
Okay,
Amazing. It was great. It was great.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll definitely have to have you come back on again, hopefully down the road. Maybe once you've expanded, maybe once we've got 10 honey skins in PG down the road. Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Well, everybody who tuned in, thank you so much. I hope you got little snippets here. I know I learned a lot about entrepreneurship and time management and just dealing with struggles, because as we know, all business owners face them. So hopefully today helped you unlock your potential. Thanks.